Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Charlie, and what are the chances you're listening to All Things Life with Charlie?
Yo.
So, last time you heard my sexy voice, it was for my introductory video, just briefly outlining what this podcast would be about and why I wanted to do it. So, for this episode, I will be speaking about lockdown. I would like to sort of talk about my lockdown and what I've done during this period, how it's affected me, and how my life has actually changed during lockdown. We all know that as people, we go through so many trials and tribulations during the year, but I think we could all agree that has definitely been the case this year. As well as my lockdown, I want to talk about my findings on Instagram. I played a little investigator and I made a couple of polls about like both lockdowns 1 and 2 and whether we 100% stuck to the rules, and if not, why didn't we? I'd like to start off by saying if you're still struggling during the pandemic, as we have had to embark on a year like no other, there are a lot of helplines that people can use and speak to. You can speak to the Samaritans on 116 123, or if you're a young person and need support, text the Young Minds Crisis Messenger for free. It's 24/7 support across the UK if you're experiencing a mental health crisis. If you need urgent help, text YM to 85258. But on a lighter note, let's get down to business. So I'll try and keep this as short-winded as possible. You know, I'm never not that good at doing that. But let's talk about my personal lockdown. So we went into lockdown in March. I wanted to go on a night out the weekend before Boris Johnson put us into lockdown with my best friend, but my mum gave me one of her lectures on one of those looks, and I just knew it would be for the best if I just stayed at home. March, April and May, work-wise, was incredibly quiet. I started my job in January, so before the pandemic started really. And working in A&E, our days were surrounded by words like query COVID and isolation and recent travel, coughs and fevers and shortness of breath. That's even stuff I have to use now. These words will probably be printed on my brain for a while. For me, at the start, I really stuck to the rules. When I was told I could go on a social distance picnic, that's what I done. When I was allowed to have a social distance garden drinks, that's exactly what I done. I didn't go inside people's houses unless I needed to go to the loo. And in all fairness, I'm not too sure about you, but I thought of it as something to show off if you stuck to the rules, because I knew even at that point, people already didn't. Sort of towards summer, yes, I did relax the rules for myself, and I do partly feel bad because I completely understand, and I know there are people out there that can't see their loved ones due to this pandemic. So on the 2nd of July, I had my 19th birthday, and then on the 4th, so just 2 days later, the pubs and bars reopened. So I went out to the Florist for cocktails and dinner, and if you're not from Watford, I highly rate the cocktails in the Florist. They're 10 out of 10. Then the lockdown rules were relaxed, weren't they? So we were able to slightly feel a bit more free. That word right there, free, really juxtaposes lockdown, doesn't it? Because if you're locked up, you're not free. I don't really feel like I need to explain that one. But there you go. Then at the start of September, I started dating a boy, and we went on a couple of dates in September, and then I went on a visit to Lincoln, went to see him and my friends from uni, but oh my god, I hate saying my friends from uni because I didn't go to uni. I did 8 days, but what could you do? But I was in such a content time in my life. Even during this pandemic, it was just such a lovely feeling. I felt so happy, and I was in a city that I love. It was such a perfect time, and I just didn't want to leave. So I was there from, I think, Friday to Monday, and I thought, I just don't even want to go. Like, what am I doing? But then, as you know, that came down like a sack of shit, but we move. Anyway, I digress. And I also want to say, hand on heart, I never exceeded the rule of 6, and I can honestly say, to be fair, if anyone knows I have, if anyone out there knows I have, and I can't remember it myself, I would like to sincerely apologise for lying on this platform. Sorry. So, lockdown was the time for TikToks, banana bread, and frothy coffee. But for me, it was trying to make my way through the new Gordon's gin set. I'm talking the orange one, the lemon one, the white peach one, and the original one. And guess what? Completed it, mate. I was basically half cut during lockdown, but we move. But the Capital FM DJ, Will Manning, some of you may know who he is already, some of you may not, made such a lovely poem about lockdown, which I'm going to share with you now because I think it's so lovely and wholesome. It's called Lockdown, weirdly enough, and it was posted on his Instagram on the 21st of May. So still in quite uncertain times, we didn't really know what was going on. Okay, so let me play it for you. Let me play it through my phone, so it might cut out, but here we go.
Social distancing, keeping 2 metres apart, queuing up for supermarkets, wearing gloves and a mask, politely moving out of the way for strangers to pass. It means having a group quiz on Zoom, finding new ways to engage with lifetime friends, checking the news at 5 p.m. for the daily updates. Will this ever end? Are we there yet? Is it over? Cracking on because that's what we have to do. Learning new skills, or at least aiming to. Finding love on Hinge. Daily FaceTimes with not much to say, just talking about this and that is what gets us through the day. Reacquainting with old friends and making new ones. Checking my family are okay. Attempting fame on TikTok, anything to pass away the day. Making banana bread from time to time, all the while thinking everything is going to be fine. Holding on to hope is what we have to do. Making future plans with friends to see us through. Can we hang out together yet? Is it nearly time? We stay at home some more, watching Netflix all day, thinking about our favourite food we can no longer have. Imagine hugging your loved ones when all of this is done. Stay at home and save lives. I can't say this is fun. Better days are coming, that much is true. Until that day, we sit and wait for the lockdown to lift. We realise how lucky we are. Life is truly a gift.
So yeah, how lovely is that? I think it's so wholesome, and it's one of those things that you think, yeah, better days are coming. There is a light at the end of this tunnel. Now, if we turn to you, lovely people, I played Inspector Drady, and I asked for people on my main and my private Instagram accounts, a couple of a question and like a poll. I wanted to see how many people stuck to the lockdown rules, be it Lockdown 1 or Lockdown 2, Return of the Lockdown. The sequel was just as bad as the first one, if I'm being completely honest with you. Anyway, I asked you guys if you didn't stick to the lockdown, why didn't you? And to be fair, I found it so insightful looking into other people's reasons and what their justifications are. So this is all going to remain anonymous, of course, because that wouldn't be fair. I'm not here to judge at all. Like I said to you in my first episode, this is a complete safe space. So, yeah. The two main ones that really stuck out with the replies were that they wanted to mix households and people's mental health. Now, the following on my Instagram are mainly teenagers because I am only 19. So for one of the main reasons for it to be mental health is really sad. And I think the reason I feel so sad about it is I think that comes from a place of working in A&E. I obviously knew people had mental health before I started my job. Like, it's saturated in the media in a good way. We need to speak about it more often. But when you come to A&E, you see the wide spectrum of mental health patients coming through the doors. You just see it from all angles. I certainly saw a major increase in admissions with mental health patients. But this was a myriad of ages. This wasn't just young people. It was like just anyone, old people, sort of mid-late, anything. But at the very start, it was a lot of elderly people, and that would come in because they couldn't stand being by themselves. They were locked up, and had no one to talk to. I always remember one patient that got brought in by ambulance, and he had chucked himself down the stairs, and it just chokes it because he just didn't want to be here, and it chokes you because these people just want someone to talk to. They don't want any grand gesture. They just want to be spoken to. They just want some interaction, which is why charities like Age UK are just so amazing. Just especially at Christmas as well. Now, as you're listening to this, people in Watford and London would be in tier 3. This is Tuesday the 15th. So yeah, we're in tier 3 tomorrow, basically. But yeah, Age UK is a charity that basically wants to call, like, they want to speak to old people. They want to make sure there's no isolation there. They want to speak to old people, get them included. Obviously, not at once upon a time they would sort of make classes and groups to, like, for old people to interact with, like, different people. But now obviously it is probably just on a lower scale because of lockdown. But I do just genuinely think it is so amazing. Like I was saying, people said if they were going to stay in, like stay in their house and properly locked down, they would be going insane. I'm sure a lot of people probably don't get along with their household, so that would make them feel isolated in its own right. But then to feel isolated in a world where you're being told to isolate and stay indoors must be so soul destroying. My heart honestly bleeds for anyone like that. If anyone feels like that, please do not hesitate to message me if you just want to talk. Like, I cannot stress that enough. You can see my social media accounts on the screen right now. I'm just one message away. If you just want to talk about anything, please, 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 I'm here. I really am. Like people said about mixing households, there are a lot of elderly people that they probably see on a daily basis. Once upon a time when my nan was still here, we lived on the same road. We lived at, my mum and brother lived at 78 and she lived at 33. Like, we were just a stone throw away. So for her, if she was still alive in this pandemic and this lockdown, I really do wonder what would have happened if she would have stuck to it, to be fair. I really don't know. So that's why people are probably mixing households, because they just want to see their family. And it's a hard one because you can't blame them. It's their family. They know no different. I know we are being told to lock down and you sort of do have to follow the rules. It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's a really hard one. A lot of other people, a lot of their replies were about FOMO, so like fear of missing out of situations. They broke the rules out of boredom, out of loneliness. Another couple of people said that their relationships is why they broke lockdown rules. And I can tell 100% that younger people who are in relationships that don't actually live with them yet, it must have been a tremendous strain on your relationships. I'm in no doubt about that. And I'm in no doubt that some friendships and relationships broke apart during this time. One of mine did, but that wasn't due to lockdown. That was just for a couple of other reasons. But that, in its own right, is such a mental obstacle to overcome too. Someone also said that they feel they shouldn't be locked up when the virus has a 99.6% survival rate. So what we're looking at here is, I think everyone has a personal relationship with their lockdown. My personal relationship would be completely different to your relationship with it, and your relationship will be different to your mum's relationship. It's just depending on that specific person. So if we look at the poll that I made on Instagram, it was just a yes or no. There was a 92% majority who said no, they didn't stick to the lockdown rules. And the reasons they gave me, are the ones I just told you, which means 8% of people stuck to the lockdown rules. One of them being my mum, which is fair play, and I know she definitely has. Since March, I cannot think of one rule she's broken. And I don't know if that's because I don't know, maybe she just doesn't want to see anyone, or is she worried about Bojo telling her off? I just don't actually know. Anyway, one of my friends, who doesn't actually live in Watford, she lives in the southwest of England, said it's very common sense. We need to start using our common sense, which I think is a really good way to look at it. If you stay in a group of 6 or less, and you fully well know that these people haven't started kissing every lad on the estate or sitting on the underground without a mask, you do start to think, is there any harm in that if you're being so careful? We're not talking about going to a house party with 30 people, bumping and grinding on people that you've met for 10 minutes. That's not using your common sense, is it? I think we just need to use our life here, guys. Just think, is this safe? Am I going to put my family at risk? I think that's a really big thing to think about. For me personally, I sort of enjoyed lockdown. It wasn't too bad. I only had a handful of people that I wanted to see, and I worked with an amazing team, which made it that bit more bearable. I think putting us into a second lockdown, personally, was a waste of time because we went into a lockdown to then be put into a tiered system. That didn't happen on the first one. Pubs and restaurants started opening on the 4th, and then we were sort of, like I said earlier, we were allowed to be a little bit more free. Whereas we had this second lockdown, which lasted, 4 weeks, I think, and then we went back into a tiered system. Why would you need to do that if the lockdown was effective? Like, I don't know, the mind really boggles, doesn't it? But yeah, I definitely think that common sense approach should play a massive role into all of this. And I think finding people, I don't know if this is going to come across quite rude, or I don't know if people agree with me either. I think finding people for having massive parties is a good deterrent. Like, for example, when Rita Ora tried to sneak all those people into a bar for her birthday, like, really, girl, like, what are you doing? Like, honestly. And the fact she's a celebrity, I'm not being funny. I think if I kept it low key and had 30 people around my house, I don't think anyone would really notice or say a lot. But they're celebrities, they get watched all the time, and then they're thinking they can just go to a bar and have a couple of bevies. So I don't know. Briefly talking about the vaccine, I know when it is offered to me, because I work in A&E, so it will be offered to me at some point. God knows when that will be. I'll definitely be taking it, because my outlook on all of this is hard enough as it is. I want this all to be finished and done and dusted as quickly as possible. And if me contributing to that, either because I do COVID tests twice a week, so that's probably picking up the pace, because then you definitely know that I know in myself, and my work team know that I am not COVID positive. But yeah, taking the vaccine, I think it just brings that pace a bit quicker. Can you hear? Is it just me, or can you hear that aeroplane as well? I'm so sorry. This is what happens. I'm trying to be a good content creator, and you can freaking hear RAF Spitfires going past my conservatory. Yeah, so like I was saying, like, anything to speed up the pace, I am all for it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. If we turn to, like, what does the future hold? I actually can't answer that. I dropped my crystal ball. I haven't found a replacement yet. But for now, if we just imagine and think about what the future holds, I, for one, can feel better days are coming. We have all been so brave and so amazing. As a nation, we stood on our doorsteps and we clapped for our NHS heroes. We then donated millions to a selfless war veteran who walked up and down his garden for charity. We are capable of such great things, and we've shown each other we can do that. As a nation, we are able to show so much compassion, and I think it's amazing. We are all such amazing individuals, and I think for people that have come this far from March, you should really, really be proud of yourself, because you have got this far. In a time where we don't know what's going on from one day to the next, you've made it this far. I would like to think that we have embraced our family values. For me and the job me and my mum work in, my brother decided that he wouldn't want to come to and fro between my mum's house, or our mum's house, and our dad's house. He just thought, because we've got a vulnerable adult in our house, he thought it would just be easier if he went and locked down with our dad. So then from July, sort of June, July, when we had our birthdays, because our birthdays are only 11 days apart, really, he came back for the weekends. So he would spend the weekdays at my dad's and come back at the weekends to my mum's house, sorry. Yes, we still argue, we're brothers, what do you expect? But I think we cherish the time we spend together now, because that's what lockdown has taught us to do. I'd like to think that he thinks the same. I'm not too sure. As well as friendships as well. It's made me realise I shouldn't take them for granted. I lost a couple of friends during lockdown. They decided to alienate me, and then they've gone away. And they're carrying on with their life, as far as I'm aware. But for me, just like my girls, they are just so amazing. They are next level. They are so supportive of me. They're so supportive of my podcast. So I'd like to give a big shout out to my girls who like to call themselves Charlie's Angels, because I think they are just amazing people, and I love them with all my heart. Just all my other friends, like Jessie at work, she wasn't able to work with me during the pandemic, during the lockdown. But then when it got relaxed, she was able to come back to work, and it was just amazing. It was so lovely seeing her again. I could reel off so many people that have just made this lockdown so bearable for me, but I would be here till 2022 explaining why I appreciate everyone in my life, but I won't. To round up this episode, I wanted to read out part of a speech that Nicola Sturgeon gave to the Scottish Parliament. I'm not being funny, I'm not sort of that good with politics, I'm not the biggest fan of politics, but I'm pretty sure that she's the head of the Scottish Parliament. I don't think they can't call her a Prime Minister. I'm so sorry, guys, I genuinely don't know that much about politics. But it's such, like I've said to you before, like earlier in this podcast, better days are coming. I really, really believe that. So let me try and find, so here it is. So, here is the end of Nicola Sturgeon's speech to the Scottish Parliament. And though it doesn't feel like it now, this pandemic will pass. It won't last forever. And one day, hopefully soon, we will be looking back on it, not living through it. So though we are struggling with this, and believe me, we are struggling, let's pull together, let's keep going, and try to keep smiling. Keep hoping, and keep looking out for each other. Be strong, be kind, and let's continue to act out of love and solidarity. I will never be able to thank all of you enough for the sacrifices you've made so far, and I'm sorry to have to ask for more. But if we stick with this, and if we stick together, I do know we will get through this. Well then, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much, guys, for the constant support. I cannot believe how much people enjoy this. I never expected this. I done this because I thought it would start as a hobby, and I knew for years I wanted to do something that I would enjoy. I wanted to be a content creator in some capacity. So it deduced that I will be a podcaster. Like I said, I will never even begin to imagine how much you guys like this. I think it's just amazing, and I'm so glad you like it because I love it myself. Don't forget to give this a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please, please, please share this around as much as you can. I will leave the link on my Facebook if anyone could share it. I will also probably post snippets on my Instagram or my Snapchat. If anyone could share that, that would be amazing. But yeah, I think just all of you, for what you've done during this year, is just amazing. And me, a 19-year-old talking into a microphone in Watford, I am so proud of you. So, to play me out, this is another one of my favourite songs. This is Riptide by Vance Joy. Guys, my name's Charlie, and you've been listening to All Things Life with Charlie.
I was scared of dentists and the dark. I was scared of pretty girls and starting conversations. All my friends are turning green. Yeah, the magician's assistant in their dreams.